Alrighty guys, welcome to my very first video. Today we are going to be playing a game called Ascension. It is definitely one of my favorite games of all time, board games, video games included. Ascension, just to kind of introduce it to you who aren't familiar with the game, it is a deck building game where we are going to be competing for the most amount of honor. Honor is indicated by this little star right here. This, what I'm hovering over with my mouse right now, is what's called the honor pool. The honor pool, once it is depleted, the game will finish the round and then the game will be over. Whoever has the most amount of honor wins the game. Now, there are two main ways that you can gain honor in this game. Way number one is by getting it from the pool. There will be certain cards that will allow you to get it. For example, this card says gain 3 honor. The other way you will get honor is by buying cards to add to your deck where where the cards themselves will be worth honor values themselves. When you take cards and add them to your deck, you do not take honor from the pool. The cards are just worth honor at the end of the game. If you defeat monsters where it tells you to specifically gain honor, or if you play a card that specifically says to gain honor, then you will take it from the honor pool. Now, Ascension is played in rounds. The way the game starts off is very simple. You have 10 cards in your deck. In your deck, everyone will start with the same 10 cards. You will start with 8 apprentices and 2 militia. On your turn, you will draw 5 cards, as pictured down below here. The two main symbols to pay attention to with these two cards are down at the bottom. When you decide to play a card from your hand, you will gain the designated effect. The little triangle is what is considered, I'll just call it buying power, and we'll call the red circle with a sword your fighting power. You will notice here in this center row here and also up here in this left-hand corner, each card in the top right-hand corner will have either a triangle symbol or a circle symbol, so it has a buying power and a fighting power that is designated to the card. This is the card's cost. If a card requires buying power, when you buy it, you will gain it and it will go into your deck. It will go into your discard pile over here to start, unless if the card states otherwise. If a card has fighting power that is designated towards its cost, that is usually a monster, and the monster, when you use the fighting power to defeat it, the card will then go into the void and you will gain whatever rewards are listed down below here. That is the general concept that we're going to start off with here. Basically, the game is going to start off with us drawing 5 cards, so we can choose to either play them individually, or there's a button over here that allows us to play all. You will notice that as you play the cards, it does add to your pool whatever currency you are gaining for playing those cards. In this center row here, if we decide to buy cards from here, for example, I will buy the Temple Librarian. You will notice it goes into my discard pile, and a new card is immediately drawn from the deck and placed in the center row. Now, there are cards up here in the top left-hand corner. We will call these the always available cards. These are cards that you will be able to buy on your turn as many times as you want. They are not replaced. There's just basically like an infinite stack of them. It's not really infinite, but I don't think the digital version really counts how many are there. There is also a cultist that we can defeat as well. If we right click on here, it'll show us that if we kill the cultist, we get 1 honor. The cultist doesn't go away. So however much fighting power you have in a turn, you can kill the cultist as many times as you would like to gain that honor. The main way, though, we are going to get points in this game, though, the main way we're going to increase the value and power level of our deck is by buying cards in the center row here. So I just bought 2 cards. I bought the Temple Librarian and the Burrower Mark II. There are 2 types of cards that you can buy and put into your deck. One of them is called Heroes. Heroes, similar to the apprentices we just played, they are cards that you will play and you will gain whatever effect is down at the bottom of the card. In contrast, there are these cards called constructs. If you buy a construct and you play it on your turn, it will actually go into play down here, and it will remain in play and give you some sort of passive or active effect that you can activate or take advantage of during each and every one of your turns. So we used up all of our cards in our hand. We used up all of our resources. We were as efficient as possible. So we are now going to end our turn and pass it to our opponent. Now, our opponent's going to take their turn super fast. I didn't quite catch everything they did. It looks like they played some apprentices and bought some cards. But now it's back over here to our turn. So we're going to play all of our cards here. We have 3 buying power and 2 fighting power. Let's see here. Personally, a strategy I like to follow in this game is I like to get as much card advantage as I possibly can. By card advantage, I mean being able to just draw as many cards as possible. The more cards that you are able to draw in your deck, the faster you'll be able to get through your deck, thus increasing your chances of finding your more powerful cards each turn. So to start off, we're going to play the Arha Initiate to draw a card. We are also going to draw another card with the Seer of the Forked Path. The Seer of the Forked Path gives us an additional ability that allows us to banish a card in the center row. Banishing basically is whatever card is there, regardless of the cost, you will get rid of it by discarding it into the void. So right now, I'm going to get rid of the Hedron Link device just because it is extremely expensive. I don't think anyone's really going to be buying that this early on in the game. And I'd like to get some more affordable cards out here in the center row. The Temple Librarian, we have to discard a card first. And if I do, you draw 2 cards. Now, I think this actually highlights... oh, you know what? Never mind. It takes it, the way they word this is kind of weird. Because the card says discard a card, you must discard a card. It only says if you do, because if the Temple Librarian happens to be the final card in your hand when you play it, you no longer have any cards you can discard from your hand, so you don't get to draw 2 cards. So let's see here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to discard the Apprentice. And the reason we're going to do that is because having 2 Militia gives us 2 fighting power, which guarantees us the ability to at least kill the cultist if possible. But first, I'm going to buy the Runic Lycanthrope. We're going to do that because it's a good card, but also we want to see if possibly something fills the center row that we can either buy or defeat. Unfortunately, the Wind Tyrant requires 5 fighting power, so we're just going to kill the cultist and we're going to pass our turn. I will explain different things as they pop up, and I will try to highlight them. I mentioned before that constructs, when you put them into play, they will have this static effect or this active effect that you can activate on each of your turns. Burrow Mark II says once per turn, when you put a Makana construct into play, including this one, draw a card. I should note that there are different factions that cards can potentially be a part of. Actually, just about every card except for monsters will be part of one of 4 different factions in this game. There are Makana, Lifebound, Enlightened, and Void. The only thing you have to pay attention to when it comes to the faction that a card is certain cards will activate or trigger additional abilities based on what faction of a card you're playing. So for this one specifically, it says when I put a Makana construct into play, I get to draw a card. That also includes this one. So we're going to start off by playing this to draw a card, and now we have 5 buying power. I believe I'm going to buy the Shadow Star because it is another construct that when I am able to play it, I will gain 1 fighting power per turn. So I'm going to buy that. The Lifebound Initiate's worth 1 in every turn. When I play it, I will gain 1 buying power and 1 honor. Great cheap way to gain additional points and get a little bit of buying advantage. Okay. Now, when it comes to playing cards in my hand, I like to draw cards first. And the reason I like to do this is I like to get a good feel for all the different things I'm going to have in my hand to possibly play with in this base game or this core game of Ascension. Not too many cards really combo off of each other in a crazy way, but in future later expansions of the game, they definitely do add some cards that do combo really well off of each other. So it's a good idea to just kind of get your entire hand available and in front of you. That way you can decide the most optimal way to play the cards in your hand. So we're going to get rid of the Apprentice because the Lycanthrope over here is worth 2 buying power instead of 1. We're going to draw another card as well. And then, okay, there's no other additional bonuses that we're going to get for playing these cards. So we're just going to play all. Or I guess I should say there's no specific order that they need to be played in. I'm going to buy 2 heavy infantry and kill a cultist to get the honor. The reason I'm buying 2 heavy infantry is right now in the middle there are some pretty expensive monsters that we were able to kill. It is also worth noting that each heavy infantry card is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. Mystics are also worth 1, but I can buy 2 of them, so automatically my deck is gaining points. You're not taking from the honor pool here, but we are gaining points every turn. Or I should say every time we buy one of those cards. Okay, we're going to draw another card. Let's banish. There's a lot of duplicates up here. Let's get some monsters out of here. Okay, now we have 4 buying power. I think I want to kill the Demon Slayer, or not kill the Demon Slayer. I want to gain the Demon Slayer because I'll get 3 fighting power every time I draw it. Now we'll end our turn. It's always a good idea to be reading through all the cards as they're popping up, especially if this is your first time playing the game. Let's see here. Drawing our cards, discarding our cards with the least amount of value. Okay, now we've got some different options here. So we've got 6 fight, which means we can kill the Corrosive Widow, the Wind Tyrant, or the Sea Tyrant. Now, if we kill the Corrosive Widow, we'll gain 3 honor. Additionally, each opponent must destroy a construct that they control. Now, if you want to check where your opponent's constructs are, you can click on this little gear icon right here, and it'll show you what constructs they have in play. Player 2 does not have any, so we're just going to close out of that. Wind Tyrant will give us 3 honor and 3 buying power. Sea Tyrant will give us 5 honor, and if an opponent has more than 1 construct, that player must destroy all but 1 construct that they control. So let's see, if we kill the Wind Tyrant, we'll get 3 honor, 3 buying power. That'll put us up to 5 buying power. I think that's actually what I want to do, and the reason for that is because I want to get the Ascetic of the Lidless Eye. This is going to allow us to draw 2 cards every time that we draw it, which is a huge advantage in this game. So let's see here. We gained a fight from our Shadow Star. We're going to play all of our cards. We got 4 buying power and 2 fight. I think at this point it probably would be in my best interest to buy a Mystic. That way I can potentially get some additional buying power. Okay, so they decided to kill the Corrosive Widow. In doing so, I have to discard a construct from play. Now, when you discard a construct from play, it just goes back in your discard pile. You'll eventually draw it again later on in the game, and you'll be able to play it again and gain any effects that are gained when you play it. The Burrower Mark II is the only construct I have that actually has an ability that is activated, or rather a trigger that happens when I play it. So I'm going to discard that construct. But let's see here. Okay. This is where the game can get a little frustrating just because nothing in the center row is affordable, but we're going to buy another Mystic. We're going to kill 2 cultists. Always want to make sure that we're bringing in, at least some honor every turn if we can. Okay, so we've got a lot of cards right here that will allow us to draw. I'm going to play the cards that allow me to draw before having to discard. And the reason I am doing that is because I want to know all the possible cards I'm going to have in my hand before I end up discarding. I want to discard the card of the least value. So we are going to potentially have Let's see here. 3, 5. I don't think we have another Lifebound hero in this deck. Oh, we got the Lifebound Initiate. We could potentially draw that. I think we'll get rid of the Apprentice. Get to draw 2 more. Okay. Now let's just play all these. Okay, so we have 4 buying power and 7 fight. I think we're going to kill this Earth Tyrant because we'll gain 5 honor and it'll allow us to draw 2 more cards. Now it is a bit unfortunate playing the Lifebound Initiate because we played the Lifebound Initiate after the Runic Lycanthrope. We do not get its additional effect. It says if you have played a Lifebound hero this turn, gain 2 fight. Well, we played this after, so when we played it at the time, we didn't exactly fulfill that. Okay, so this card's worth 3 points. This one's worth 2. This one's worth 2. Every time we draw this, we gain 2 points. We draw a card. This just allows us to draw a card once per turn as long as the construct's in play. This one gives us 3 buying power. I think I'm going to go in favor of card advantage here. I'm going to go with the Flytrap Witch to potentially draw more cards every turn, but also gain honor. But I'm also going to get the Temple Librarian. That way I can continue to discard the cards that give me the least amount of value to then hopefully draw something that is actually worth more. Now, we did just get 6, so you know what? We'll get the All-Seeing Eye. That way, when we do draw that, we'll always draw a card every turn. Play the Makana Construct, Burrower Mark II to draw a card. All of these are just single effects. Okay, so we have 7 fight. I think the Avatar of the Fallen is the way to go. It's the most expensive creature here. It says the reward is that I can gain 4 honor, and you may acquire or defeat any card in the center row without paying its cost. So I'm going to kill that. I think the card we're going to want to get is the Grand Design, simply because it is worth 6 points at the end of the game. It is a construct, so when we draw it from our deck, we'll be able to put it in play, and it will stay there, and we won't be at risk of drawing it again unless if our opponent destroys it. We'll also gain 2 buying power, and this will be once per turn, and we can spend it to only acquire Makana constructs. Now that's particularly nice because Makana constructs tend to be expensive. Actually, constructs in general tend to be expensive, so getting any additional advantage there is definitely beneficial. I think I'm going to buy the Void Initiate. I want to talk about a concept real quick right here. So we're going to gain buying power. This right here, this card is going to allow us to banish a card in our hand or our discard pile. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, hey, why would I ever want to, banish cards? Because remember, banishing cards removes them from play. They go into the void over here. These cards no longer are accessible unless if there's a card that says otherwise. Why would you ever want to banish a card from your deck? I mean, the cards in your deck are what give you value. Well, the reason for that is because at this point in time, we're over halfway through the game. We've got plenty of cards in here that give us a ton of value, but we've also have a lot of cards that we started off with that aren't giving us nearly as much value. So getting rid of those cards that aren't worth as much prevents us from drawing them in the future, which means we're going to have a better chance of drawing better cards every turn. So let's see here. We're going to discard a card. I think we're going to discard the Mystic. Okay, we can draw a card as well. Some constructs you do have to activate. You get to choose. I will then discard the Apprentice to draw 2 more cards. We'll draw another card. We'll gain our honor. We want to play the Lifebound Initiate before the Runic Lycanthrope just because the Lifebound effect gives us extra fight if we play it in that order. Let's see here. Okay. I think the way I want to do this here is I want to kill Samael's Trickster because it gives me an honor and a buying power. And I think I want to get this card. It's worth 3 points and gives us 3 buying power every time we play it. Just thinking of the best way to increase the maximum amount of points we're going to get. Let's start off by drawing our card. Draw some more cards. We'll gain some honor and draw some more cards. Draw a card and banish a card in the center row. We'll banish this. We might be able to get Cetra, Weaver of Stars. Okay, let's discard another card. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? Let's get rid of the heavy infantry. Yep. That was a good pick on my part. So we can now... Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So we can get Cetra. Cetra is a very powerful card because it allows us to acquire a hero without paying its cost, and we get to put it on top of our deck, which means we're guaranteed to either draw it on our next turn or draw it when we play a card that allows us to draw a card. But we're also kind of nearing the end. Once this honor pool is out, the game's over. So I think we're actually going to go with the Watchmaker's Altar just because it is worth more points and we can still buy additional cards. We will get the Avatar Golem. The Avatar Golem's ability is kind of cool. Every time we play it, we'll gain an honor for each faction among constructs I control. But right now, I've got Enlightened, Makana, and Void. So every time I play this, I'll get 3 honor. Okay, we killed that. Allowed us to destroy the construct that our opponent had in play. Now it's their turn. Okay, I can only keep 1 construct in play. I'm going to keep the All-Seeing Eye just because it gives us card advantage. And like I was saying before, card advantage is always nice. We're going to play the Void Initiate to banish an Apprentice because we no longer need these cheap buying power cards. And we'll go and try and draw a card again. We can get 5. We can buy this. Okay, so now the round is going to finish. I don't remember who went first. I guess it was me. And let's see who won. All right, looks like we won. So it tells us how much honor we had from the honor pool, how many cards we had in our deck. But overall, remember, our cards are also worth points as well. So we ultimately ended up coming out on top. I will definitely make another video on how to play Ascension and just some of the different strategies that I implement. We'll also definitely take a look at some of the later expansions and kind of go over how they change the game up. But until next time, thank you for watching, and I will catch you later.